us on the program TMI Monday. Of course, it's an extension of the show by about 35 minutes. And that's because the special guest that we told you at the beginning of the show is right here in the studio. The Honorable Minister for Health, State, our very own Dr. Osagie Ehanire is in the house. Doc, many thanks for joining us on the program TMI.
Thank you very much, Sonny. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is not the first time he's coming to our studio. It's actually the second time. You know that when you go through a journey and the journey is beautiful, you want to go through it again. I'm sure that's why you're here.
Yes, correct. That's why we're here. And I want to express my thanks also to Chief Lady Samuel Benin, who has been gracious enough, a very good friend of our family, particularly of my father, for sponsoring this particular activity and wishing him and his family a happy New Year and Merry Christmas.
Okay. The present administration, which you're privileged to be part of, came on board on three premises. One, stabilize the economy, fight insecurity, and fight corruption. Let's start with the economy. What do you have to say about public perception that the economy is worse off compared to where we were pre-2015?
Well, thank you very much, Sonny. Before I go to that, let me again take the opportunity to wish all Benin people, all Edo people, all Nigerians Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and particularly Happy Igwe Festival. I also take the liberty of extending the same greetings to His Royal Majesty Ehanire II to congratulate him on a very successful Igwe Festival and wish him many happy and successful years on the throne. Now, the economy of the country is on the upward trajectory. As you know, the GDP growth for the third quarter of this year was 1.8%. As a matter of fact, a little bit over 1.8, 1.81. In spite of all the difficulties that we have had, a very low oil price, a very low revenue, despite that, the confidence in the economy within this country and outside is very great, and we are doing very well with that one. The projections for the future are very good, particularly with all the infrastructure that is coming up, would contribute a lot to GDP, and then the activities in the middle and lower sector, particularly in the economy, there's a lot of growth. I mean, in agriculture, there's a lot of growth in that area.
The feeling is that these statistics that you just read out now is for the elites. It doesn't translate to how the ordinary man on the street feels, or the welfare for the ordinary man on the street doesn't translate into that. Do you subscribe to that?
No, I do not. I think there are people who are expecting growth and recovery from one angle, from the angle of trade, commerce, contracts. But in reality, the growth in the economy is coming from largely agriculture at the moment. Farmers are happy because the productions of rice, yams, and maize has grown. There was a meeting the other day where the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria and the Maize Farmers Association hosted the president and reported very good growth. Farmers are making money, and that's not traditionally where the economy has been. It's always been in the area of commerce and contracts. So people are not seeing where the economic growth is coming from. That's why the perception is there that the economy is not growing. And also in the lower sector, the social investment program that is giving some spending money to the people who were before neglected in society, the vulnerable who are receiving their 5,000 stipend, and also the Empower, 500,000 people who are on jobs. So the economy is actually beginning to take strength in an area which people are not used to looking at it from.
Does this sound plausible that, like you said, farmers are happy, they're making good sales, which means they're making money and therefore contributing to the GDP, as it were? How do you interface that with the fact that a bag of rice sells for maybe 18,000 and above compared to maybe 4 years ago when it was sold for about 8,000 naira or 10,000 naira at the most.
Well, you know that in the first place they have been, we had to devalue our currency in order to allow for the free trade. But the important part of that is the import substitution. We were importing rice up to $5 million a day in value. As a matter of fact, the governor of Central Bank was saying the other day that Nigeria was spending 1.4 trillion on food importation. The big four importation: rice, wheat, frozen fish, and sugar. And that the government now, with its focus on grow what you eat, is now able to save a lot. We have saved, I think, $800 million on imports. So growing more rice, we are now about 90% self-sufficient in rice production. And all the money that will have gone into importation of food now goes into other areas. There are many areas of deficit: machinery, infrastructure, roads, where money was short, and we are now able to plow money into those areas.
Does it bother the federal government that what the ordinary Nigerian would buy for 8,000 naira, they now buy for about maybe about 18,000 naira per bag? Does it bother the federal government, as it were?
Yes, it bothers us a lot in the sense that the spending power is a bit challenged, but I think that all those are things that will improve with time, with better productivity. We must know that the price of food is not only influenced by the amount you produce, it's also influenced by the cost of transportation and the cost of storage. Storage facilities are not yet fully there in the country. We are still developing storage facilities. Silos are still being built and being contracted out of management. Our roads, the cost of fuel, the cost of transporting food all the way from the north down to the south is tremendous. And by the time the transport infrastructure is also settled, the cost of food transportation will reduce, and we believe that the cost of food will also go down.
Would you say there's food security in Nigeria against the background of what you presented in terms of impacts made?
We are on a very good trajectory to food security because a nation must first be able to secure the feeding of the citizens. If we had gone on as we were going on before, we really would have faced a crisis, because the amount of money going on importation of food would have been something we would not have been able to afford anymore with the crash of the oil price, which came down to from $120 to $37. We will have been in a position where we couldn't pay for all this food import. 1.4 trillion naira food importation will have been beyond us. But we have been able to curtail that, in that we are now largely self-sufficient in a lot of items of food, including even tomatoes. But the challenges in the value chain are in storage, transportation, and post-harvest losses, which are all the result of the infrastructure not being as strong as it should be.
Since we're still talking security, maybe we should just look at the issue of insecurity. Like I mentioned in my opening line, that the present administration was premised on three fronts: the economy, security, and the fight against corruption. There is a perception that we're not doing well as we ought to in terms of checkmating insecurity in the country. Just a few days back, former Chief of Defense Staff was killed by me. Does that have any out of concern to the federal government, against the background that not too long ago there was a report about over 17 soldiers that were killed in the fight against Boko Haram and Metele in Duguri? People are wondering, what is government really doing to checkmate insecurity? The issue of herdsmen is still there. In fact, recently, a United States agency predicted that there will be food insecurity in Nigeria in 2019, because most people can't go to farms to get food and all of that. So I want to get a reaction on all of these.
Well, the issue of security is a huge package in itself. You know that there is the organized attack that has been going on in the Northeast. with radical religious groups who are armed from outside this country, who have access to very sophisticated weapons and are being sponsored by forces that are not very clearly yet understood. Government has made a lot of impact in there, in that of the 14 local governments that they were controlling at the time this government came, all have been reclaimed. So you have sporadic insecurity where they throw bombs here and there or use suicide bombers into crowded areas. So that is still there. But the civil insecurity that goes on with kidnappings, a lot of that has also surprised government in the sophistication. But there is response to it. The government is developing a strategy to tackle that. Security is largely in the hands of the police and the civil defense. And structures have to be developed to meet particular challenges, either in particular states where they are common, and or also in particular areas or specialties in which there are gaps that are to be addressed. But the police are going to undergo training to be able to respond to very sophisticated crimes like bank robberies and kidnappings, which are a major concern to, and also very disruptive to social security and also to the economy. The attacks of headsmen, as we know, have reduced of late. But a lot of that actually has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that there is not a well-organized relationship between farmers and herdsmen, and there's a lot of trespassing that goes on between farmers and herdsmen, and also the competition for space, for land. You also know that there are reports of communal clashes between villages, between communities, also struggling to have control of the farming land. And the same kind of relationship between herdsmen who want to graze and water their cattle, and farmers who also want to expand their farms and building farms where there were no farms before. They are, claiming land to make farms, and collisions and clashes between herdsmen and farmers will occur. But once there's order, for example, creating ranches, which people have also misunderstood and misinterpreted, in order to keep herdsmen more in a confined area, and so that they can also take care of their cattle. Once those things are better organized, I think all these clashes will now begin to reduce. It's a question of organizing society, re-engineering the whole of social structure to be able to have accommodate the different needs of Nigerians.
There have been questions about the level of funding in terms of security, particularly after the attack in Meteli, where several of our soldiers, our brothers, sisters, were killed. People started asking questions about the $1 billion that was approved for arms purchase. And they interfaced that with the fact that some of those soldiers who survived that attack also claimed that, or alleged that the equipment that they had access to were less sophisticated compared to what the terrorists are using. Isn't this an indictment on the government in terms of funding and providing adequate equipment to fight insurgency? What with the fact that the government has also said that the insurgents have been degraded? What we're seeing now, does it reflect degradation, as it were?
Yes, the insurgents have truly been degraded in that they do not really control any territory. We are working with our neighboring states, Chad, Niger, and to an extent Cameroon, where the insurgents do find refuge. By the time they are chased from Nigeria, they go into those areas, and once they think you are looking at another place, they come back in. The nature of irregular warfare, and this is an irregular warfare, is unpredictable, in that the enemy has the opportunity to watch you, and when they think you are not looking, to strike behind your back and run away. And you know that even in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, there is difficulty in controlling insurgency. But with every move, the army understands the tactics and begins to prepare itself for it. Prepare your weaponry, prepare your soldiers, in order to be able to respond to whatever the varieties of attacks are. But irregular warfare is always something that is a challenge to every army in the world, and the Nigerian army is no different. But the ability to learn and respond and get a particular kind of weaponry that will take care of the challenges is what the government is pursuing. You know that the government is trying to acquire particular kinds of weaponry now from all kinds of the world, from the United States. Recently, there are these new aircraft that are coming in, which are going to be used for surveillance and also for being able to address pockets of attacks that are sprung up by irregular forces. They have access to weapons which are coming in from the loss of control of government authorities in Libya and Mali, and they're able to transport these things, these guys through countries which we do not control, and arrive on our shores without always being detected. The intelligence work is also being reinforced to go to study the patterns of supply and where they get their recruitment from, so they can also be addressed at base.
If you just join us, it's an extended TMI on independent television. We have a special guest here, the Honorable Minister for Health, State, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, shares some thought with us on the state of the nation. Just to let you know that our earlier scheduled program, the full broadcast of the 2018 edition of ITV Radio Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols, in collaboration with Rock of Ages Christian Assembly International, will come up at the end of this special interview. Please do endeavor to stay with us all the way. And back to the Honorable Minister of State for Health. At the 2019 budget presentation by Mr. President at the joint session of the National Assembly, he talked eloquently about the level of infrastructural development this administration has brought to bear. That didn't go down well with some national legislators who jeered and booed at the president, particularly, for example, the second Niger bridge. I mean, some say what the president presented is a far cry with what is actually on the ground. So how do you justify the statement that we've done so much in terms of infrastructural development in Nigeria?
Well, I was at the National Assembly when the president presented the budget and witnessed what went on there. But I think it was more a partisan response, and it was uncalled for. I don't think it was the best thing to do, and it was not particularly dignified. And it really didn't have anything to do with what the president was presenting, but by those who just wanted to be probably a little bit disruptive.
Yeah, but they said some of the claims that he was making in his presentation were not things that one could say were true.
Well, I'm not sure they knew what was going on, but it is true that all the things the president said are going on. He doesn't mince words, and he doesn't say what he's not doing or do what he's not saying. But it is true that the Niger Bridge, second Niger Bridge is going on, and that's not the only bridge going on. There are lots of other projects going on. The bridge across the Benue at Loco has been completed and is being prepared for commissioning because the approach roads are being done. There is another bridge over the Benue again at Ibi, which is already designed and approved. So as far as infrastructure is concerned, this government is weighing down very heavily on it. There are large numbers of infrastructure projects that are going on in the area of electricity, rail, roads, dams, irrigation for fishery and generation of power. There are huge amounts, and I've always said that Nigeria is at the threshold of the most massive infrastructure development in its history. 2.7 trillion spent in last budget cycles, and a lot of it coming on now. A lot of these budgets are programs with the support of foreign loans, but they are very important to develop GDP, because without infrastructure, without transportation, without electricity, it's difficult to grow industry. We just spoke just now of the effect of transportation on food prices. If you're able to get transportation on rail that is cheap and fast, the food price will come down. So it is important to develop infrastructure across the board for the benefit of the country, for development of industry, and for job creation.
What is the level of benefit of Edo State, for example, of this infrastructural drive of the federal government?
Well, the railway network is something that should actually have been in place 10 years ago. And I've always said that Buhari is playing catch-up. He's trying to do things that should have been done long ago and were not done. A lot of things were omitted, a lot of things were neglected, and we have even seen an interview where the former vice president did state that a lot of money that should have gone into all these projects, particularly electricity, they didn't get there. So we are playing catch-up, and the catch-up includes base transportation of bulk goods. For bulk good transportation is the railway network, which is very ancient and is being modernized now from narrow gauge to standard gauge. Supposed to run from Lagos, and in fact from Lagos is being extended to Apapa and Tinkan Island ports, so that you can load your trains directly at the port instead of bringing trailers that congest the roads and fall over and disrupt traffic. And it's going to get to Kano, and we have an agreement to in fact extend it to Niger Republic, so that you can evacuate their goods and bring their goods in for them, and they will pay for it.
What's the justification of extending to Niger Republic rather than concentrating on having a standard, well-structured rail network within the country first?
No,
particularly from the north to the south, where we see a lot of mass movement of goods.
Well, yes, I will tell you about the entire project. The entire project is internal, but a bilateral relationship that says, if you, we shall pay, and it's the Republic of Niger that's going to obtain the loan to pay for extending the rail, because you know Niger is a landlocked country, and they need to go to get their goods out and bring goods in. And if they can do it cheaply, it has to be through either Nigeria or Benin Republic or any other country. So why not trust? And they will pay for it. So it's not that you are giving it away free of charge. They will have an inland export and import processing center, which they will now use our rail system and pay, so that you make money. Even at the moment, Nigeria sells electricity to Niger Republic, so that you can earn something from there. It's part of the ECOWAS cooperation, and part of the fact that a landlocked country has to depend on Lagos to have a coastline.
Is Edo State benefiting from this rail project? That's one. Then secondly, the Benin, Auchi, Abuja expressway has been on. It looks like the project has been abandoned. Is that correct?
No. Well, first of all, let me go back to the rail. The rail network, as I was saying, is going to move from narrow gauge to standard gauge. It's going to be to allow faster moving trains. It's also going to stretch from Port Harcourt through Makurdi, Jos, etc. to Maiduguri. And those are modernization, creating from narrow to standard gauge. But the brand new rail line is a coastal rail line that will run from Lagos through Benin City and through Port Harcourt to Calabar. That is a coastal rail line. It's a brand new greenfield rail project which has been approved, which is awaiting funding and survey work to start. So Edo will benefit from the new rail line. We'll have a railway in Edo for Benin City for the very first time. But there is a part of it which runs from Itakbe to Warri. That is in fact the first standard gauge railway in Nigeria, which is already operational, and is to be extended to Warri Port. And it will be connected from Itakbe through Lokoja to Abuja. So you can now drive on, go by rail from Abuja to Benin. Those are all projects that are working for the future. But for the road from Abuja to Benin is under construction. I drove it coming down to Benin, and there's work going on. I will tell you that. There are areas here which are very bad at the moment, but I spoke with the Minister of Power Works and Housing, and he told me yes, there are certain areas where the substructure, that's to say the structure of the soil, has to be restudied in order to create the right design of road for it, so that it will last longer. There's portions there where the substructure was not well understood, and engineers are studying the problems there to go to design the correct road structure.
Let's talk about health. I mean, that's within your purview as it were, even though you've been forthcoming with all the issues in terms of a general perspectives on them. Some time ago, a story, took center stage on the social media where it was alleged that the president has been cloned. You're a medical doctor and have a lot of science background. What is this whole drama about the president being cloned, or the president in Nasrallah not being the president, and all of those stuff happening around the country and even other parts of the world?
Well, I'll tell you that I've been amused. I thought it was a joke when this story came out, but I'm surprised that it's actually a topic that is being appears to be taken seriously in certain quarters. That is not possible. It's just not possible that you say a person was cloned and he's walking around performing such a high-profile duty that his own countrymen don't know, and even foreign countries who he deals with, he sees the American president, he sees he's been on tour all over the world, and those people will not know that they are dealing with a different person. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, actually. No, I see the president every week when we have council meeting. Last Thursday, when he was commissioning the airport in Abuja, in Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, I saw him, we shook hands. He is the same person. I think that joke is the cloning thing is a fairy tale that we should drop now. It's not a serious topic to talk about.
We've seen an outbreak of yellow fever, particularly in Edo State. What is the federal government doing in terms of respond to nip it in the bud and avoid its being spread to other parts of the country?
Yes, there's a lot being done. There's been an emergency operations center that has been opened, and we are working with the Edo State government to first of all study the outbreak and then report to the World Health Organization, with whom we work and who sent vaccines to start vaccinating in the areas around a part of Edo South and Edo Central and Edo North, which are affected. The response is there. The focal person for the emergency operations center was supposed to see me. He was in Benin yesterday. He was supposed to have seen me, but had to first of all move to Warren for the vacation. But there is a response going on, which is being supported by World Health Organization, and they release the vaccines that are going to be used. These vaccines are normally reserved for routine immunizations. And when you have an outbreak like that, they have to take away from the storage they have and give to us. And for them, all the justification, you must prove your case. And Nigeria has already proved this case. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has been responding very efficiently. They have made the case for WHO to send vaccines, and response is going on.
Despite the social intervention program of the federal government, to take many people out of the poverty level. Are you concerned that statistics that is coming out from even government agencies suggest that we've recorded more job losses since the present administration came on board compared to previous administration?
No, that's not true at all. We have not experienced any job losses. There have been plenty of job gains. It's just that it doesn't appear as if the statistics captures these things very well. If you are employed in a company, you are counted immediately as being employed. But if you were idle and you become a farmer, you're on your own, statistics doesn't capture that you have now been employed.
So are you saying we shouldn't take serious data coming out from the National Bureau of Statistics?
No, what I'm saying is that you can take it seriously. What I'm saying is that it has to be seen in its full and larger context. In that those who are going back to work, self-employed, independent, independently employed, even going into farming, those going to Empower, not all of those ones are captured in the traditional data collection. Okay. So you have to be able to look wider and see that, yes, there are many more people who have actually found employment, but who are not captured in the traditional way in which you record job creation. So lots of people, as I said before, have gone into farming. I could give you the figures, but there are at least 2-3 times more people. Millions of people are going into farming now and are making money and are very, very happy with it. And but you must also remember one thing, in that because of the population growth in this country, every year 3 to 4 million new people are looking for jobs. Every year, who are coming out of university or coming out of school. So the number of people looking for jobs is increasing annually. So there is a good reason and need to be able to align economic growth with population growth. Because if population is increasing faster than your economy can grow, then you have to really address the problem. So economic growth has to be faster and must be able to really manage our population properly. So that is something that government has been looking at and working on to do child spacing, family planning, so that everybody will have a number of children you can look after and be able to create an economy that is well balanced. That's a very important part of economic growth, which is being done in developed countries, which we also need to be doing here when the plan is worked out. The Ministry of Health is already putting out adverts you hear every day about child spacing, being able to look after your children and have a number of children that you can look after and cater for, so that you don't have a situation where there's distress among children suffering malnutrition or undernutrition. The government is at the moment feeding 9.3 million school children every day, 9.3 million every school day in the homegrown school feeding program. And that number is going to increase to 15 million. The reason is that a lot of these children go to school without food. They are undernourished. And so the government gives them a balanced diet so that they can develop properly and focus more on education.
At the beginning of prior to the present administration coming in, we heard that 2 million jobs will be created annually. And today, the statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics doesn't suggest that something meaningful has been achieved in that direction. If we now, for example, use the increasing rate of our population as being a factor responsible for why we're not able to make jobs available to our people, is there any correlation?
Well, I just said just now that there are a lot more jobs being created than are being recorded in the informal sector. A lot more people who are self-employed, who are artisans, who have set up their own business, who are farmers, who have set up their own business. They are not being recorded. And if you want to record them, you find that actually government has met and probably exceeded the 2 million jobs we are talking about. But again, there are other factors that affect employment, which again, we must look at government's effort. Now, if you want to create jobs, you want to go to go into industrialization. You want to set up factories, industries, go into manufacturing. You want to go into food processing. You want to go into agricultural value chain addition. You want to go into all sorts of activities that will bring jobs. But for all of these, you need first electricity. Without electricity, you find it very difficult to have functioning industries. Secondly, you must have skilled, disciplined, technically well-prepared workforce. And you must also have a good transportation network to bring in raw materials and take away finished products. So all of these are what government is working on in building the infrastructure. Without an infrastructure, you really find it almost impossible to create all the jobs you want to create. Now, if you have a good transport system, well-trained people, electricity that is affordable, then more and more jobs will come in. That is the foundation for job creation.
So where are we with electricity and power generation? Just recalling some few years back, one of your colleagues actually said, if a government that can't provide power within 6 months is not worthy to be called such. But here we are today. Looks like power situation in the country has not improved as it ought to be.
You are correct. And I was just referring to an interview that was given by one former vice president where he address the issue of the infrastructure and all the money that has been pumped in and of which nothing has been seen. The difficulty in the power sector is at different levels. And the first level is generation. And generation of power was largely from thermal sources, from gas. But the entire value chain had problems in that the gas companies were not being paid by the generating companies, and government had to quickly step in to take a loan to make sure that that problem was addressed, that gas companies could resume or continue supply of gas to generating companies. Now, generating companies give their electricity to the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, and that group now will now use the transmission lines to the substations and from there to the distribution. When Buhari's government came on, Nigeria was generating under 3,000 megawatts, about 2.9 megawatts. By now, government is generating 7,000 megawatts. That's more than double of what Buhari made when he came. But it turns out that there are two more problems. The entire transmission grid can only take 5,000, which means that for a long time we had 2,000 megawatts idle that could not be transmitted because previous administration had failed to actually expand the transmission network. That has been addressed now rapidly. There's been a rapid expansion of transmission network, so that I think by the end of the year, maybe next few weeks, the entire 7,000 megawatts can be transmitted around. But there are issues with the distribution. The distribution, that is the retailing of electricity, see has issues where the electricity is not reaching the last mile where it should. And, but the distribution companies all have contracts which somehow or the other are a bit complicated. And government is working, and when I say government, I mean Ministry of House and Housing, working with distribution companies to find ways of being able to sell this electricity to those who need it, and make sure you give them meters and install distribution lines to their homes and to their factories. There's an issue in there. So you have issues that supply of gas, generating power,
and distribution,
transmitting power, and then the last mile is the distribution. There have been issues all over the way which were not addressed, which are now being addressed.
Okay, just before we let you go, because you know usually we have a very busy schedule. 2019 election is just a few days or a few weeks away. What assurances are there that the election will be free, fair, and credible?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The president is a straight arrow. He goes straight. He does not go this way, that way. He has said that this election is going to be free and fair. He came in by an election that was regarded as free and fair, and he is only committed. He's committed to conducting elections that are free and fair everywhere, at federal level, at state level, and at local government level.
He's yet to sign the electoral amendment bill, which some said would have really added some credibility to the election.
Yeah, that is the opinion of one segment. But the other segment said that there are issues with the bill which need to be studied. Because if you find that you have a bill that has certain booby traps in it that might create problems, then you will sign it and have problems down the road. So the bill has to be studied, has to be analyzed by experts, and it has to be quite clearly understood that there are no booby traps built in that will start creating problems down the road. Once that is clear, the president will know what to do.
We're happy to have a Christmas season or end of year season without the usual fuel queues and all of that. So how did the present administration do that?
Well, very good. I thank you very much for bringing it up. Before, now in previous years, people are anxious about fuel queues, about not being able to get to their homes. Government has paid particular attention. This is a people-oriented government, a government that wants to make sure that people don't suffer. You know that the areas of money being owed to pensioners is being settled. Even those of Nigeria Airways that have been pushed over and over and over many years, it's been settled. They are paying Nigeria Airways retirees their money, their benefits as I speak to you. So the government has also made sure, knowing what always happens around this time of year, that if issue of fuel does not become a problem, so the reserves are full and the supply of fuel in all areas of the country is guaranteed. There are some places where people are using old memory, fearing that there will be shortages and they are hoarding fuel. Those people are wasting their time. Okay. There will be no such shortages. If you are hoarding fuel, don't waste your time doing that, because nobody's going to buy or hoarded fuel.
Why is the federal government still paying subsidy when I've been issued, we're told there was no more subsidy? So where is that coming from?
The subsidy, well, there's an arrangement by which NNPC now imports this fuel and has an arrangement with importers. But you see, the issue of fuel is, again, it's a legacy of the past. It's a very serious problem that this government inherited. And it is because our own generating capacity, refining capacity has been insufficient, it has been neglected, it has been underdeveloped. And I think Nigeria is probably the only OPEC country that is not able to refine its petrol. Others are doing that. So there's been a lot of neglect, and our refineries are not working. We just reached an agreement now to have a PPP financing and a PPP operation of these refineries, so that we can now begin to refine our own oil and have sufficient internally produced petroleum products.
So, Honorable Minister, fuel subsidy is real. Fuel subsidy is real.
Yeah, there's a kind of agreement which has a different name, but subsidy is actually what you call it.
No, you call it agreement. So, are you saying it's not fuel subsidy?
Well, it boils down to what you call subsidy. That government still has to equalize to make it affordable to Nigerians.
That means subsidize. That means subsidize.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. That's what it also. Because if you do not do that, and you want to go at open market price, it will not be favorable to citizens, because it will have an effect on cost of transportation, cost of food. We're just talking about food just now. So if you remove the fuel, the fuel subsidy, food prices will go up. Our government doesn't want people to suffer. So they decide that it is better to let it go until we are producing enough fuel or able to create a situation where it will not affect the common man too badly. So it's sort of a supportive measure that government does to make life more tolerable for its own citizens. Government has said that it's their responsibility to look after their citizens' welfare.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of State, Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire. It's been a pleasure having him here talk with us on quite a wide range of issues, national issues, just to ensure that you are abreast and also informed about the goings on, and then make proper decisions. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you again for honoring this invitation.
Thank you very
next
much.
time you are available or you're around, you oblige us.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored, and I want to wish all other people happy good festival, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. That's it on our show today, the extended version of TMI, just for us to play host to the Honorable Minister for Health, State, Dr. Osagie Ehanire. That brings the show to a close. But the fun, excitement, entertainment, enjoyment on ITV never ends. Stay tuned as we bring you in a bit the full broadcast of the 2018 edition of the ITV Radio Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols in partnership with Rock of Ages Christian Assembly International. Don't go away.